Hello. Uh, Today, I will try to cover a brand new issue. In my previous videos, I tried to cover Turkish politics generally from a historical perspective. Today, I'm starting a new series of lectures. And in the following videos, and today I will try to cover some of the concepts of comparative political systems, and in my next video, I will address the political system of Britain. So let's start. Um, Let me begin uh, with this. Okay. Yes. Uh, we will cover the main concepts. What do governments do? Independent governments hold control over territory within its borders. Governments negotiate treaties, protect their citizens, determine political decisions for their citizens, and give war decisions. Economic and political stability are absolutely tied together and linked. Democratic governments. In democratic governments, elections take place to make decisions or elect people who will make decisions. There are many different types of democracy. For example, there is a different type of democracy in the United States, or Britain has a different type of democracy. India has its own style of democratic politics. Totalitarian governments where one or a few people make decisions for the entire country. The citizens have no choice over the state governments. Totalitarian governments can be dictatorships, communist, oligarchy, or monarchy. Usually, media is used to promote the leaders' agenda in totalitarian countries. For example, Soviet Union or Saddam Hussein's Iraq can be given as examples of such governments. International organizations. United Nations is an example, NATO is an example, World Health Organization is an example. Some of them, these organizations are governmental organizations, so they have governments as their members. For example, what is NATO? North Atlantic Treaty Organization, organized to limit Soviet growth, but today mainly it is known as a military organization. Or World Health Organization, developed to help with poverty and healthcare in different countries. In COVID-19 pandemic, none of these organizations could be successful in managing the crisis in a global scale. Boundaries. In political science, what kind of boundaries are there? Boundaries are used to separate countries, drawn by humans to define and protect national territory. There are many types of boundaries. I want to talk about two main types: natural boundaries that following the natural features, like the boundaries between Texas and Mexico, or cultural boundaries, borders based on cultural issues, like the cultural boundaries between India and Pakistan. Uh, so the concept of country. So in the concept of country, what are we studying? Nations or states? And what are different? What are the differences between nations and states? A nation is a group of people with a shared identity. This could mean a common language, culture, or religion. States have often preceded and formed nations. A state is a sovereign entity with institutions and laws. Sovereignty is one of the main important dimensions of a state. None of the other states can interfere in the domestic policies of a state. Basically, can be defined as this. Nation states are often set to have at a minimum the following attributes: territory, population, independence or sovereignty, and a government. Here, Max Weber's definition of state is important to holding the legitimate use of force within the defined boundaries. We can also define state like this. The modern state was born out of the new monarchies of old Europe. By the end of 30 Years' War in 1648, the old feudal systems of Europe were replaced by the modern state. The new monarchies were known as absolutist monarchies. The rise of nationalism is important. Nationalism was unleashed in the French Revolution as a means of repelling German invaders. The French people relied together to protect France. Nationalism was exported throughout Europe by Napoleon's conquests. By the late 19th century, Europeans had formed or desired to form nationalistic states. As the states of Europe expanded their world contacts, they took nationalism with them. Nationalism then became a global concept. Also, another topic here, potential causes of arguments or quarrels, impact of the past, key institutions and political culture. From causes to current politics, the book looks at patterns of interaction and what people quarrel about. So this book is the book of Michael Roskin, as far as I remember. Impact of the past. Country past can reveal quite a bit about its political system. This includes political geography and the notion, for example, what happened then matters now. What was the country's experience with religion? Such issues are important. Key institutions. Institutions allow us to see how power is structured. For example, is the system presidential or parliamentary? What does the party system look like? Does the electoral system structure the party system? Ways of democracy. Another important issue that I'm mentioning here in this presentation is the ways of democracy issue. Samuel Huntington noted that democracy has advanced in three waves. The first wave began with the American and French revolutions and lasted through World War I. However, between the two world wars, there was a reverse wave where authoritarian regimes pushed back democracy. According to Huntington, the second wave was short, lasting from World War II through the mid-1960s. The third wave was short-lived, but so was the reverse wave that followed. The third wave began in the mid-1970s and has lasted through the present. Waves of democracy, three waves of democracy, we can say. Political culture. What is a political culture? It studies the value and attributes of citizens regarding politics. This approach was born out of the institutional approach no longer being sufficient. However, keep in mind that because attitudes can determine governments, governments can determine attitudes also. Legitimacy is very important while studying political culture. In order to be legitimate, most citizens must think that the current regime's rule is rightful. Some regimes use symbols and ideology to maintain legitimacy. Also, education plays a key role in contributing to a country's political culture. Ideology is another important concept in today's presentation. How can we define ideology? Ideologies are known as belief systems with the objective of improving society. They have some elements: perception, evaluation, and movements. Marxism, Leninism is a primary example of an ideology. Ideology is always centered on a serious thinker. Another issue is the politics of social cleavages. Cleavages are a society's fault lines. Societies are often split along one or more lines, and from these divisions, people develop their political views. Examples of cleavages include social class, geographic region, religion, and urban-rural cleavage. Again, what people quarrel about. Let's turn again, look at this issue. Is the economy growing? What is the role of trade unions? About such topics, people in a country may have some quarrel over such issues. And in terms of citizen participation, how can citizens participate in a political system? First, they can directly have a say in the policy making, like voting in referenda or running for political offices. Political groups are another important element. Political parties, groups seeking to place candidates in office, primarily political organizations versus interest groups. The iron law of oligarchy is an important concept while studying political parties. What determines interest group success? Resources, bargaining power, control over factors of production, representativeness, power in numbers, credibility, and respectability. And yes, this was the end of my slides. what determines interest groups. So today I try to cover the main concepts while studying political systems. In my next video, I will try to focus on the political system of Britain, the history of Britain, the institutional structure, the political system, the political culture of Britain. In my next video, I will try to cover this. I want to thank you all for listening to me, and thanks a lot for this, for watching my video. Thank you very much. Let me end the meeting. Thanks.